Hi there, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make a DIY table saw from scratch with only needing a few parts such as a circular saw and a few pieces of wood. So I hope that you will enjoy. So I'm Darren and I'm your host and you're watching Darren DIY. And now, without any further ado, grab a drink or something to eat and I hope you will enjoy. So at first, I wasn't going to make a table saw. I was only going to make a table saw jig. So I didn't show you all of the items needed. But for the table saw, you are only going to need a few items. A circular saw, a straight piece of wood or metal, in my case a small aluminium channel, some zip ties, some screws, and a piece of plywood as the table saw top, which you can also glue pieces of wood or plywood together to form a larger top. If you are going to make a table for the table saw, you are also going to need some pieces of relatively thick wood. So first I removed any screws and pieces of wood from the plywood that I was going to use as my top. Next I drew a squared line all around the top, so that I have a line to measure from which would be parallel to the saw blade, so that the cuts that I make would be straight. You'll get this later in the video. After that I marked the line, I drilled 2 holes in the circular saw base, so that we can screw the circular saw to the top. Now we need to create a small cavity for the circular saw blade to come out from. So in order to do that, I marked 2 lines around a centimeter or so apart from each other, parallel to the squared lines that I had marked earlier, and then cut the gap using the circular saw itself. I also zip tied the blade safety guard and screwed the circular saw in place as I was making the cuts, so that the gap is as accurate as possible in terms of the gap width. Again, this is so that the cuts are more accurate. Also make sure to take your time making these cuts so that they are as accurate as possible. As you can also see, I made the blade gap on the side. At first I thought that it would be a great idea, but it didn't turn out that great, as the wood would fall off pretty easily when you cut it. So I suggest that you make the blade gap in the middle of the top. After cleaning the cut using a chisel, I flipped the top upside down and inserted the circular saw in the gap and marked and drilled the 2 holes that we drilled earlier on the circular saw on the plywood, so that I could mount the circular saw. Then after that I drilled the holes, I mounted the circular saw to the top, using some small bolts. After that I saw that it was great, I grabbed the aluminium channel, which was going to be used as the fence for the table saw, and drilled 2 holes on each side. One as the channel is at its flattest position, and one as it is upright. 4 holes in total. I drilled 2 holes instead of 1, so that if I wanted to resaw a piece of wood, I could place the channel upright and make a more accurate cut. Now if you are going to make a table saw jig, you're done, and as you can see, you can use it as it is. But I decided to go ahead a step further and make a table for it. So I grabbed some pieces of wood that I scavenged from old doors and cut and assembled a really simple frame for the table, using some glue and screws. I'm not going to narrate through the whole process because it's simple, boring to hear, and the video is self-explanatory. And just like that, the frame was complete. So I roughly sanded the rough parts and gave the whole thing except for the top a base coat of paint. Then after that dried, I resanded any parts that were still rough. Then covered the parts that I didn't want to color a particular color, and then painted the frame a black and orange color. Then after that the paint had dried, I removed the masking tape and reinstalled the circular saw. And then zip tied the on-off switch so that it is always in the on position. The assembly takes less than 5 minutes to do. Now to use the table saw. If you want to make a 5 cm cut, for example, all you need to do is to measure 5 cm from the blade using a right angle ruler, also known as a square, from both sides of the blade. Then line up the fence or the piece of straight wood or aluminum channel in my case with the 2 marked spots, and then screw it in place. And just like that, the table saw is ready for use. As I said earlier, you can also place the channel upright and use the table saw for resawing wood. To resaw wood, you just have to be more precise in your cutting. So as you can see, the table saw turned out pretty well, and I think that the orange and black colors made it look really cool. I also suggest that when you are painting the table saw, you paint the wooden pieces first, then assemble them together, so that you don't have to put masking tape, and so will prevent a lot of hassle. I also suggest that you use an aluminum channel as the fans for the table saw, because it will be straighter than a piece of wood for sure, unless you have some kind of jointer to make a really straight edge. I also made the table saw in a way so that if I ever need the circular saw, I can just unscrew it from the tabletop. So that's it for this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. So if you did, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe so that you won't miss any new DIY videos like this one. Also, if you want to know how I made this really awesome looking bench made from reclaimed pallet wood, click the card up here, or I'll have a link in the description down below. So as always guys, until next time, make sure to stay safe and always have fun. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.